Even today, a lot of business documents are still submitted by scans, pictures, and even physical paper. So there's a lot of opportunity to automate this with these amazing new AI vision models. In this video, I'll show you how to extract text from an image using the Claude 3 API. I'll also show you when to use the different models in the Claude family and give you 3 prompting techniques to get the best AI vision results for your use case. Okay, let's go. The first approach is really the simplest. We just ask the AI to return back all the text it sees on the page in the order it sees it. So let's jump into this Python project I created, and we'll look at how to use the Claude API for vision. And I'll put a link to the GitHub for this project in the description of the video, so you can check it out for yourself. So all you need to do when you're using Claude is pass in a base64 encoded image. So I have a function here that just base64 encodes an image file. And then we just construct the message itself. So we use anthropic.messages.create, and then in the content of it, we pass in that encoded image file. So it's just as easy as that to actually pass the image into Claude. In terms of the prompt we're using here, I'm going to say extract all text from this image and return it as a JSON object with extracted text as the key. And then for the model, we're using Claude 3 Haiku. And the reason I'm using the Haiku model here is for a very simple principle. Use the cheapest model you can that gets the job done correctly. So in this case, I tested with both Haiku and Sonnet. And for the really simple case where it's taking all the text off a document, Haiku works exactly the same as Sonnet. And it's considerably cheaper, so we're going to use that one here. Okay, so let's run this now. If you look in main.py, this is where it actually runs that agent. And we just go through a directory, find all the image files, and then pass those in. And then at the end, we just get the result from that extracted text JSON property we asked about in the prompt and save it to a file. And now we'll just add this invoice image to this directory and we'll run it. And so the result is it creates this text file. And inside of it, it just has all the text it picked off that image. And for my checking, it did everything perfectly. Right down to the terms and conditions and the thank you for your business at the end. All the text is accurate. So that works great for getting all the text off the image, but a lot of times we want more than that. We want the AI to actually interpret the text and classify it and then give it to us back in a logical, structured format. So with this method, most of the code is actually exactly the same, but I did make some changes. So the first being, I'm using a new model here. Now I'm using Claude 3.5 Sonnet. And the reason for that was with this method, it takes more intelligence. So we're going to ask it to look through the invoice and actually figure out what the fields are and have it nicely structured for us. And so I want a more powerful model to do that kind of work. Another change is the actual prompt. So now I'm actually telling it that what I'm passing in is an invoice. Before I just said it's an image, but now I'm telling it what it is. And I'm telling it what I want it to do. So I'm going to say extract key invoice details in JSON format and do not include any other text. So I just want the key invoice details. So now this model is going to have to figure out what text on there is important, what's not, and what is important, how do I label it correctly and structure it correctly. So now I'll run that updated agent. Now it exports a JSON file. So this is quite different than the first time. And it's actually structured it very well. So it has an invoice number here, a date of issue, cleaning period. And then it's even created a JSON array for me when I had multiple. So for example, services here, it created an array and put one for the cleaning the curtains, green cleaning, etc. And again, all the details are correct. It's just now this time it's structured and then kind of irrelevant text like that thank you message is left off here. It's just giving us the important stuff. So really impressive and logical data structure that Claude came up with there. But there's only one problem with that. And a lot of times we're building a business application, say we're building a series of AI agents and this is the first agent that gets the data. We need it to be a consistent format every single time. With this next approach, we're going to tell the AI exactly what data format we want and the structure we want, and then ask it to conform to that. And with this method, things actually change quite a bit. So we introduced the concept of a tool. I did actually a whole separate video on this, so if you want to watch that for more details, I'll link it at the end. But basically in this tool is we're actually describing the structure we want for the data file we want returned. So now we're just telling the AI exactly what we want. So here underneath the properties of the input schema, we're saying we want invoice number, invoice date, total amount, vendor name, vendor address, payment account number, and a due date. And then we set all those to required. With that in place, we can actually pass that tool into the message creation. So pass it to the Claude API. And as well as that, we're going to change up our prompt. We're going to say analyze the invoice image and extract the key data requested by the tool. And we name the tool here, extract invoice info, to provide the extracted information. And then a key at the end, it says, if the image is not an invoice or data is missing, still return using the tool with values of null. And what this does is if we pass it in a different kind of image or some of the data that we requested is not there, it still keeps the structure consistent. So it's the same every time. And now when we run that one, it gives us back exactly what we asked for. So now we're actually leading the AI, we're telling it what we want, instead of the other way around, like in the previous example. Another advantage of doing this way is you can tell the tool to format certain fields. So for example, here I said, don't include the $sign for the total amount, which it didn't. But if I didn't put that in there, it would put the $sign in. And I put it as a string here, but I could have put this as a number, and then would have just given me back 929.5. So there's lots of options on how you want the data coming back, but the key thing is now it's consistent every time. But you do have to be a bit careful with some things. So for example, here the due date is null. And we can see on this invoice, it actually doesn't give us a due date. It gives us a date of issue. And it also gives us terms and conditions. So it says it's due within 30 days of the invoice date. So my thought is, let's just go back to the tool and under due date, let's just say, if no date is present, calculate it from the invoice date and the payment terms. So basically take the invoice date and add on the 30 days in this case. And now if I run that again, I get a new file. And now it does give us a due date. But I don't think this is correct because I think this invoice date is, I think this should be December 6th, 2023. So the due date should be into 2024. But it's giving us 07/06, 2023. So I think maybe it confused the day and the month or something wasn't right. Although I might actually have to take that back because now that I look at it more closely, if you see here in the cleaning period included, the actual day is like 31 here. That's obviously the day, not the month. And I put that first. Maybe it's smarter than me now and it's interpreted that the 12 here is actually the day and the 06 is the month. Making the calculation I did, I think, close to being right. So I think it's still off a little bit, but it was closer than I thought. But the point is, if we do something like this, maybe we're asking a little bit too much to do it. So maybe in this scenario, we'd say extract the invoice date, which we already have, and also extract the number of days till it's due, and then do the calculation ourselves. I've had a lot of success with the Claude vision capabilities, but it's certainly not perfect yet. More updates are coming later in the year, so I'm really excited to keep building with it as it keeps improving. I'm working on a video now where I build on top of this project and add a second agent to the mix. So the first agent, which we did in this video, was actually take the text off an image. The next agent is actually going to process the request. So in the case of an invoice, for example, you could grab the invoice data, pass it to the second AI agent, and the second AI agent will actually look at accounting systems, look at the vendor's past history, things like that, and make an intelligent decision about whether to pay the invoice and when to pay the invoice. So if you're interested in that type of video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I hope you're having an amazing day, and I'll talk to you in the next one.